Welcome back, fellow Lumineers, to be our guest. We are at the pinnacle of our draft set review, both in color. We are on the 6th in color, but most importantly, in terms of special guests, near and dear to my heart, and I think a lot of you out there as well. If you're on the Twitterverse at all, if you're in any sort of Discord or community chat, I don't know if he's on Discord, but it doesn't matter. He's everywhere that it could be. I'm here with the one, the only, you know him, you love him, Stephen Gettle.
Yay! It's me. Thanks for having me.
Oh, Stephen, it is truly a pleasure. This is your video debut for Lorcana content, is it not?
It is. This, if it ever makes it to air.
Assuming I have your face on there, assuming...
Yeah, assuming there's no technical difficulties, assuming somebody better doesn't come along.
I mean, who could be better than you, Stephen? Genuinely, I am honored that your first kind of in-person recording, your first in-person content, not your first content period for the Lorcana community, we'll get to that in a moment, is on our channel. Thank you so much for joining us here, Stephen. It is...
Well, you're welcome. And for me to headline, too, with everybody's favorite ink color, gray. Pretty exciting.
Right? Jewel, metal. Sure. Yeah. We're talking steel today, as Stephen has alluded to. So, Stephen, before we get into that, more importantly, please tell the people a little bit about yourself. Maybe a snippet of your Lorcana journey, anything that you feel one way or another about draft, and specifically what you just started just a few days ago.
Oh, sure. I have been excited about Lorcana since before the game came out. I happened to be at D23 2022 to see the hullabaloo.
So jealous.
At the time, I had no idea really what was happening, so I didn't get a set, but I do think I met Ryan Miller and talked to him. I didn't realize it until probably a year later, and I looked back at my photos.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was there. Got into the game right away, but really didn't get serious about playing the game until set 3, and now I have settled into a great group of local people that I'm able to play with, including yourself.
Including yours truly.
Yeah, if you didn't know, we are in the same town.
Yep. We are in the Greater Vancouver District, and specifically, we both attend, and I like to give them a shout out when I can, Aegis Games down in Bellingham. Not sponsored, just a fan. Happy to rep Team Aegis, and thank you all always for your support. Love that community. But also the Greater Vancouver community. I think you'd agree, we got a pretty great Lorcana scene in Vancouver.
Yeah, we do. I think it's close-knit, and I think that's partly due to the DLCs and set champs. Yeah. That has really brought people together, I think, both of those things. And having the last DLC in our backyard in Seattle, which is not that far south of here, it's a couple hours drive, so no airplanes for anybody, really helped bring our community together, to be traveling together, to be able to have meals together and support each other has been really great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was awesome. I see you've got your DLC tag back there. That was a good time. Hey, Ravensburg, if you want to ever have DLC Vancouver, we're open to it.
It's a beautiful town. We've got great spaces.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, 25% off for Americans.
Specifically, I'd say like a May or a September DLC Vancouver would be chef's kiss. All right.
Beautiful time of year. We have cherry blossoms.
As much as this should be a tourism video for Vancouver, Vancouver tourism.
I'm not sure if we're going to get to it later, so I just want to quickly plug something you alluded to, which is something I just started on Twitter. I have started a Lorcana history channel called @LorcanaHistory, so you can check it out. Daily, there will be a Today in Lorcana History with what has happened a year or more before on that particular day. So, what happened on December 31st, 2022.
Can you tell us what happened today? So it is November 6th. Did anything happen November 6th in Lorcana history yet?
You know what? I haven't posted it yet, but I know what
Give us a sneak peek. This video isn't going out today, so it'll already be past.
Sure, it will be passed. Hang on just a quick second. Today in Lorcana history on November 6th, 2023, Shere Khan Menacing Predator was revealed by the official Disney Lorcana website.
Wow. And
Is that the most exciting thing that happened?
it has
Maybe
been a
not, but
huge
probably.
impact ever since.
Chukon!
You know what? When it was revealed, I remember it. When it was revealed, I'm like, this looks really good. It's one of those cards that I feel like can be abused at some point. But what I love about your channel is, or your feed is, it's going to grow over time, right? As the years go by. And what I would love to see people do, and I encourage a few people on Twitter, is if you have some association with the memory of that day, you went to an event, you remember where you were when you saw that reveal, go ahead and share it and tell us your story around that piece of history. Because I think that would be really great, just to start becoming an amalgamation of everyone's story around the history of Lorcana. All right, let's get into the review here. And my 6-year-old daughter is about to go to bed, so this is going to turn into ASMR set review with Heath and Steven. Tea time and set
I can be loud, right?
Yeah, you're allowed to be loud 100%. I've got headphones on. All you're going to deafen is me and our audience. But, I can dampen your audio in the edit.
Great.
All right. Let's talk about steel. As Steven alluded to, I think a really great color in draft for this set. Not that color matters. I get it. For everyone out there that's shouting, hey, colors don't matter in draft in Lorcana. Yeah, for sure. I get that. But I like to divide it because otherwise we'd be here all day if we were talking about the whole set. Future me / past me is about to hit you with the reviews. So without further ado, Heath, take it away in terms of how are we ranking these cards? So we're going to do A, B, C, D, F as our rating system. A is first pickable and happy to first pick it. This is a bomb or just really effective card. There are commons that are absolutely within this territory. But ultimately, it's something that you're just like, you open your pack, you look at it, and you're like, yeah, this is the one for me. Love this one. Happy to have it, right? That's an A. B is, I'll first pick it, but I'm not going to be absolutely thrilled about it. But I'm definitely very happy to pick this up and have this in my deck. I will always play this card, and I'm going to kind of be picking it in the first half of the pack. C's are your, like, journeyman staples of your deck. You're almost always going to play these cards unless you've drafted so well that your deck's just crammed full of A's and B's. So you're always going to play these cards, or almost always. But you're not exactly thrilled to be taking them. You're just like, okay, these are cards that are going to fill out my deck, right? These are the cards that you want kind of in the middle to last half of the pack, and they're solid. D is, ideally, I'd like to not have this in my deck. I will play this, but I'd like to not have this in my deck if I can help it, and I'm certainly not wasting any early picks on it. These are cards that you are going to be picking up because it's the only cards left in the last third of the pack, right? Ideally, these should all be inkable. If they're that bad, you should not be taking an uninkable card that's that quality, right? And then F is don't play it. And usually that's because they're uninkable and they're like D quality and uninkable. But it could also, there could be some inkable cards that I rate as S just because they're so bad. And in that case, obviously, if they're inkable and you need ink, you're going to play them in your deck because you're only eliminating 8 cards that you drafted. So if you have, 8 uninkables that are Fs, you're going to play an F that's inkable, of course, right? But you should try never to have this anywhere near your deck, and you should only be using it as ink if I've got an inkable F in there. And we're back! Steven's laughing because I literally just cut away for like half a second. I just need enough room to make that edit, to get it in there seamlessly. Seamless, beautiful editing by Heath Collier, who is a professional editor. You'll notice that I didn't
suddenly go like this to screw up your edit.
You should have. Next time. All right. Let's get started here. The first one that we're looking at is Kakamora, Long Range Specialist, 1 cost, uninkable, 0/1 lore. It is a pirate. There is some pirate themes in here, and when you play this character, if you have another pirate character in play, you may deal 1 damage to chosen character or location. Steven Gettle, how do you feel about Kakamora?
Well, I like this card. I put it as a B. I don't think it's tops mainly because it's not doing any kickback damage and it's uninkable, but I don't mind having a couple of these in my draft. Um,
So specifically, I feel like low cost uninkables I can get behind a lot more than the high cost because, okay, I got an uninkable 1-drop in my hand, but it's not going to rot in there because I can literally just play it turn 1. So I feel less bad about that. Now, let me tell you, are you making some assumption here about how many pirates you have in your deck before you're feeling like Kakamora is a B tier?
well, I've looked at how many pirates are in the commons uncommons pool. There's a lot.
Yep.
There's over a dozen. I can't remember exactly. Under 20, over a dozen, something like that. So I think there's a fairly good
I
chance that
think
you're going to be drafting a lot of
17
pirates.
commons and uncommons specifically.
There you go.
And Nive, I was talking with him yesterday. You're going to see him later in our draft review summary. But he did the math beautifully, like he always does. I knew there was 33 total in the set, 17 commons and uncommons. But he specifically broke it down that the average 8-person pod is going to have 50 pirates available. Wow. So on average, each deck is going to have 6. Now, some people are going to try and force the pirate strategy and have more. Some people are less. But on average, the average deck is going to have about 6 pirates in it. So if we're the average deck, 6 pirates, are we feeling that that's where B tier Kakamora is?
I mean, for me, yeah, it doesn't change it. You put this out turn 1, you're not dinging a damage even if you're on the draw.
Yep.
Because you don't have another pirate character in play. So you're only hitting that damage later in the game, second, third turn in the game, where you're going to want to be on curve anyway. So that 1 damage coming into play is going to be mid to late game to finish off a character, which is going to be great to throw this out, have a body on board, and take out somebody.
Yeah, even 1 damage.
Not early.
Right? Because there's so many times where you've got your opponent kind of getting an advantage over you, maybe you're getting an advantage over them, and you just build up characters that have 1 willpower, 2 willpower left. So 1 willpower could take out a 5/5 at some point because it's only got 1 willpower left. I'll be honest, I have this at an F.
Wow.
So Steven has already admitted that he is feeling really high on steel. The reason I have a problem with this is because I'm not a big synergy guy. So this is me. Okay. This is my rating. This is not necessarily for everyone. But I'll tell you why I have it an F. Is really I'm very hesitant to go after synergies. I will say the pirate synergy has me tempted because there's so many of them. Right? I hate synergies where it's like good things have to happen for this to work for me. Whereas the pirate synergy... Yes.
Go ahead. Finish off.
Well, if it didn't say pirate, if it just said 1 cost 0/2, come and deal a damage, all of a sudden I probably have this at like a B tier.
Okay.
My problem is the pirate part.
Right. You're going to have 6 pirates in your deck. You're going to have 8 pirates in your deck.
Yeah, if I go after
and some of those pirate cards are important.
Yeah.
They're good.
So let me put it this way.
They're A-tier
Stitch
cards.
from the last set, which was 4 cost, 1/4, deal 2 damage, I had as one of the best 4-drops, if not the best 4-drop in the set. So comparatively, this is more efficient if I've got a pirate. It's that if that kills me. So I will absolutely bump it above an F for you. I let Steven know this is going to be a democratic process.
You will have a pirate.
All right. I'm not putting it at B, though. I will put it at C for you. All right.
You will have a
pirate. I just realized that I already broke my rule about being quieter because I can't help but get loud. So let's try this again.
Oh.
Kakamora, Pirate Chief. 7. It doesn't have to be that quiet, just mostly quiet. 7 cost, uninkable, 4/6, 2 lore, pirate and captain, so it's got 2 relevant subtypes. When this character quests, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card to deal 1 damage to chosen character or location. If you discarded a pirate character card, deal 3 damage instead, which is a lot.
I think I know what you put this at.
7 cost uninkable for me, it has to be like a bomb.
Yeah, and this ain't.
No, and it's not. It can be if you've got a pirate. If you happen to have...
If you've got a pirate, which you probably will. But, even still, it's waiting in your hand until turn 7. There's just not much else you can do with it.
Long time. And you're probably not getting out on turn 7. So it's clear, and I've said this many times before, but I'll continue to say it. You will never naturally get to 7 ink. If you're playing a card a turn, you will never get to 7 ink naturally. So you either have to hold off playing cards on turn, which is a bad idea, or make sure you've got a lot of card draw in your deck such that you can both play and ink cards every turn. So 6 as well, you will naturally get to 6 on the draw, but not on the play. So 6 is already tough enough. 7 is very tough. There's been plenty of drafts where I've gotten 7 or 8 ink, but definitely not on turn 7 and not without a lot of help. So 7 cost uninkable should be game ending if you're going to try and risk playing that, because it is a huge risk. Or if you've got a lot of discard outlets. If you've got a lot of discard outlets, like draw a card, discard a card, then maybe. So for example, I took some more risks last set with the 9 cost uninkables. 1, because you could get them out cheaper. And 2, because I tended to draft King Candy relatively high and Hypnotic Deduction to some extent, but that doesn't put it on the bottom. But King Candy was the perfect one. Draw 2, put 1 on the bottom of your deck. Great, I got the 7 cost uninkables stuck in my hand. It's now on the bottom of my deck. There isn't really that outlet as much. There's the sunglasses and there's the... oh gosh, what's his name from Stitch that has the sunglasses? Anyways, that draw and discard, but otherwise
Cobra
not.
Bubbles?
Thank you. Yeah, so 7 cost uninkable, too tough for me. So yes, you know exactly where I've got this, which is at a hard
You put it at a C.
This one, I feel like you've got to be with me on, right? You've got this at an F, right?
I'm with you now. I don't know why I had it as a C. But that was because it was the second card I looked at, because I looked at them in order. So I'm like, all right, well, C. I think that it's a bomb if you get it out. And you have a pirate.
I don't
you're
think
not
it's
going to get it out.
For me, a bomb is like I'm going to win next turn or the turn after. Like,
we'll get to a bomb. There's one coming up.
There is one coming. And one that you might actually be able to play and is at least inkable. This is not that. Agree on. Yeah. Probably not as high. You're probably higher on it than I am.
This is an F. This is an F.
All right. Jim Hawkins, Stubborn Cabin Boy. 2 cost, inkable, 0/4/1 lore. During your turn, whenever a card is put in your inkwell, this character gains Challenger +2 this turn. So if you're inking, he is a Dr. Facilier from set 1.
Yeah. And if you're not inking, like if it's not your turn, then he's a 0/4.
Yeah.
He's a location.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So where do you have this location with legs?
So I put Jim at a C because I didn't put anything at D.
So
and
D for me is ink that you may play occasionally. Just so you know how I kind of categorize, D is like, it's inkable and under niche circumstances I'll want to play it. But like, I think this might be the lowest inkable 2-drop in the set for me. Like, I have to ink to make it a Challenger +2. I already wasn't thrilled at a 2 cost 0/4 Challenger 2. Playable, but not my favorite. But certainly with me having to ink for that to happen...
You're going to ink anyway. I think this is going to take out your opponent's 2-drop.
Yes, and that's what it's good for. The problem is it's going to survive that challenge, but then it's going to be taken out for free immediately after, right? Because it's got 0 strength on the kickback, right? So you take out my 2-drop, but then my 1-drop takes out your 2-drop, and so we're all kind of, even in the end. And that's like best case scenario. Yeah. All right, this one we're definitely going to disagree on because Nive and I already disagreed on it, which is Mr. Big, Shrewd Tycoon, 4 cost uninkable, 1/1, 3 lore. This character can't be challenged by characters with 2 strength or greater, which means it can only be challenged by 1 strength characters. What say you, sir?
Okay, well, now I'm going to put this at an F.
Hey, I said I already negotiated Kakamura. I had it an F, now it's a C. Don't...
Oh, really? I had this at C, but now I'm thinking it's an F.
Well, so here's the problem. I wanted to rate it higher, but then I actually looked at how many 1-strength characters there are in the set, and there's actually quite a few that you're going to want to play. Specifically, of the ones that I have rated as like C and above, there's 8 commons and uncommons with 1 strength, and another 5 to 6 rare plus that you would actively want to play in your deck. And there's a lot of 1 damage, move 1 damage counter, deal 1 damage in this set, like Kakamura.
Yeah,
so
other stuff that was coming up.
There's a good chance that it doesn't even get to quest because they're dealing 1 damage to it and feeling real good about it. But even if it does quest once, gaining 3 lore for 4 ink doesn't feel great, especially when it's uninkable. It's not bad. Like, anytime you're getting 3 lore, feels okay.
Sure.
But when I paid 4 for that, and they're taking it out with the 1/2 Kakamora, or there's a 1/2, not this one. This one's an 0/2, but there's a 1/2. When they're taking it out with, anything that is inconsequential, that hurts. The thing is, obviously, you'd play around that, right? Okay, I'm not going to quest if you've got a 1 strength character. I'm going to try and remove your 1 character and then deal with it. But maybe by that time they've found the 1 damage and it's gone. So I have this at an F, but I would not. This is one card I wouldn't blame anyone for trying to make work, because it could be so game busting if they don't have an answer for it. If they don't have an answer for it, it's just like free 3 lore every turn feels real good. I just feel like most of the time the average deck is going to have answers for it.
There's the threshold for an answer is so low here as well. Yeah. Like, they're gonna have an answer unless you've got so many answers of your own, you can take out their answers.
Yeah.
Which is possible if you draft enough removal, if you draft enough stuff with I don't know, some kind of lockdown, rush, bounce. I'm not sure what's in the set.
Bodyguards would certainly help,
colors.
Right? Bodyguard helps against the challenge, right? Because if you got a bunch of 1 strength character, no, there isn't.
Common and uncommon here.
Nope. There isn't. In fact, I think
so. I wouldn't count on that.
So yeah, that's my problem. So this is one of those things. If it was inkable, such that if it's a bad board state, I can ink it. But if it's a good board state, oh my gosh, then I'd probably have it at like maybe even an A. But just the fact that it's uninkable and there's so many responses to it, so I have no choice but to play it and feel real bad when it's removed with a Kakamora. Yeah. All right. But again, don't blame me if you want to draft it. Mr. Smee's Steadfast Mate, 2-cost inkable, 3/2/1 lore. During your turn, this character gains evasive. It is also a pirate, notably.
Sure, it is also a pirate. I put this at A.
Okay.
And it's because of the evasive on your turn. There is some dangerous evasive in this set.
There is.
At common, at 3 willpower.
I can't imagine what common you're referring to.
I don't know. It's not in steel.
Tinkerbell, 1/3, 2 lore for 3. Yeah. At common. What are they thinking making that a common?
So you're going to see those.
Yeah.
So you're going to want this to fight those and survive.
That's a fair point.
Plus any other evasive. There's repeatable evasive in this deck with that red item, longboat, whatever it is.
Yep.
There's something else that is an item that provides evasive. So it's going to be around. You're going to have to fight evasive in these drafts, and this is a good way to do it.
That's a fair point, which I think makes it valuable. But for me, A's are like, I'm picking those very highly, right? Whereas Mr. Smee, I would value highly, but I'm hoping that I can get it like front third to middle of the pack. But there's a distinct possibility that others are valuing it more, and then we're losing it, right? So for me, I might assess, as the drafts go on, if I'm not seeing it, maybe I got to start valuing it higher. Right now, I've got it at a C+. So I'd be happy with it in kind of the B territory, because I think that's a good point. I was considering it in a vacuum. The fact that there's the common Tinkerbell that could be wreaking havoc means we probably should be valuing this higher. Also, I will value it higher if I happen to have the next Mr. Smee. So let's put him in B and talk about the next Mr. Smee. Because I'm valuing him higher if I've drafted the other Mr. Smee. Though I'm probably not drafting the other Mr. Smee unless I draft this one first. And where did my little Mr. Smee go? I'll come back to you, Mr. Smee. You're going to be in B. That might be the one that I'm missing. I was establishing that I'm missing one from my list here. There's the big one. Do I have the little
Captain of the Jolly Roger. 6 cost.
Yeah, can you read it out for me while I find where my Mr. Smee is?
No problem. Mr. Smee, Captain of the Jolly Roger, is a 6-cost uninkable, 3/6 with 2 lore. It has Shift 4, so as Heath alluded to earlier, if you have the previous Mr. Smee at 2 cost, that improves your interest in this particular Mr. Smee. And it has the ability Raise the Colors. When you play this character, you may deal damage to chosen character equal to the number of your other pirate characters in play.
Yeah, which, considering big removal is so hard to come by, that's why I'm going to delete you.
Could be 2 damage, could be 3 damage, could be 4 damage.
If you got, those 6 pirates and they all happen to be out.
But this is a super rare.
Yes.
So you're probably going to see a lot of little Mr. Smees and
Yeah.
not too many of these Mr. Smees.
Well, not
If you
any most of the time, yeah.
yeah.
Though I did see a lot of Yzmas in the last set. Wasn't she a super? No, she might have been rare. Never mind. I saw a lot of her. For some reason, didn't like Mr. Smee. So Mr. Smee's up in B. There we go. Okay, all fixed. Captain of the Jolly Roger. Where do you feel like you've got him at? Let's assume for a moment that you've got at least one of the steadfast mates. So there's a chance that you're shifting him. But maybe not. Let's not be greedy and say we got 3. But there's one in there. You got a chance to shift him. How are you feeling about Captain of the Jolly Roger?
Okay, well, so I would put him at a B if I had a Mr. Smee steadfast mate.
Okay. Now what about if you don't?
Then I don't think that you can count on having a Mr. Smee steadfast mate because he's uncommon.
Yep.
So even if you draft a Mr. Smee Captain of the Jolly Roger and hope to pick up some steadfast mates,
which other people are going to be valuing well as well, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like I think about the last set I had, whenever I drafted the 7-drop Ratigan, I'm like, oh, I want to pick up some of those 3-drop Ratigans, but nobody was drafting them, so I could find them at the end of the pack. That's not going to be the case here.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So what do you have him at then without Mr. Smee? Yeah, in a vacuum.
I'd probably put him at a C then. I don't know where that is on the Heath scale, but on the Steven scale, that's, okay.
Yeah. For me, that's last half of the pack, right? Playable. I want to draft it, but I don't really want to waste a high pick on it.
I think he's going to make an impact on the board. I think he's going to stick. He's going to gain you some lore and probably take out some of your opponent's characters.
So I've actually got 3 ratings for Mr. Smee. If I'm not going after the pirate strategy at all, he's an F. Right? He's a 6-cost, 3/6, 2 lore, uninkable.
Okay.
If I'm going after the pirate strategy, but I don't have the shift target, then I'm with you. I think he's at a C. And then if I've got a couple of Mr. Smees, then I probably got him at like an A-, because all of a sudden that's a huge body, right?
And this shift is that important to you?
Well, just the chance that I can get it out easier, right? That 6-cost uninkable is doable, but it's not necessarily a slam dunk, right? Mm-hmm. I don't actually like shifting all that often. I'd rather not, because ultimately I'm going down a card when I shift. Mm-hmm. But there's times where that's worth it. And just the reassurance that I might be able to get this out a lot easier than having to push for that 6th ink and having this sit in my hand for that much longer. Bumps the value up a lot for me. I equated the same with King Candy in the last set, which is the 1-drop King Candy. I didn't want to shift it, but a 5-drop uninkable isn't great. If I can shift for 3, I like to have that backup, right? So I think on average, let's assume that we've got some pirates, but maybe not Mr. Smees. I think that's where you're most likely to be most of the time. So I'm happy with him at C there as a result.
Okay. I think we have to touch on, for a brief moment,
yes,
one of the things that you just said, which is if you're going for the pirate strategy. So what is it that makes you go for the pirate strategy? What is the card that you open that is all like, okay, we're going pirates this draft?
I think no matter what, you should value the pirate subtype a little bit, which is to say if I've got 2 cards that are relatively equivalent and one's pirate, I'm valuing the pirate more, right? So no matter what, you should go for pirates in that sense. But when I say the pirate strategy, that means all of a sudden my pirates tick up almost a full point. From C to B, from B to A. So what do I have to open for that to happen? So it's got to be a really good pirate payoff. So like Mickey Mouse in Ruby is one of the ones I'm thinking of because I just did Ruby. But there's quite a few pirate payoffs in here. Wendy Darling, huge pirate payoff, right? If I'm opening one of those, then all of a sudden I care about pirates a lot more. So it really depends, but he's one of them, right? If I open him first pack, I'd be tempted to take him and then just force pirates, because if I can get him out and be hitting for like 3, 3 or I'll be greedy and say 4. Oh my goodness. Like if I'm going hardcore pirates and like half my deck is pirates, all of a sudden he becomes a bomb. So yeah, it depends on what you crack, right? But that's a great question. Okay. I love that question. Steven, you are a genius. Mullins, Seasoned Shipmate. 5-cost, inkable, 6/4, 1 lore. While you have a character named Mr. Smee, a few cards care about Mr. Smee here. This character gains resist +1. What do we think about Mullins?
Okay, so Mullins at a C, but I bumped him up to a
Yep.
B after I looked at the willpower distribution in the commons and uncommons.
Oh, I love how you're getting so data oriented with this. I love it. Hit us.
I did some homework. So I
Yes.
think there are some valuable cards with 6 willpower at common and uncommon that you're
Yeah.
going to see, and this takes them out in one shot.
Yep.
And I think
Are you thinking
forget
about
about
Prince Naveen as one of them? I feel like that's the
yep.
biggest one that I want to get rid of because that's one that, like, as you said, bodyguards so few and far between, and it has 6 willpower, correct? 2/6 in
I
amber.
think that's right.
Yeah. So this is like perfectly lined up to deal with that particular threat, which is one of only 2 common and uncommon bodyguards, right? So.
There's also a crazy Tinkerbell in Amethyst at
Mm-hmm.
uncommon,
Yep.
which is expensive but shifts, and
Yeah.
is and well,
But isn't it
and it
evasive
has
though?
evasive.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
That's the problematic part. Tinkerbell, come on, man. So bad.
So that's a card you draft and win.
Yeah.
You win the game.
But yeah, so Mullins I like because he's not far off rate. So the vanilla rate is a 6/5 for 5. So he's not far off that, but resist +1 can be huge, and we already know we're valuing Smee high. And he is an uncommon, but uncommons you will see, you just, to your point, are going to have to value them a little bit higher. So I think a C is fair for him. I think you're right. I think that research that you've done might bump it up to like a C+, right? Because especially if you don't have other big bodies, being able to deal with Naveen, for example, in one shot, right? Because imagine situations where you don't have big bodies and they drop a Naveen and you feel hopeless. Whereas if you got this out on board, you're like, what's the worst that can happen? They drop a Naveen and I take it out in one shot. I love that, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we will put him at the top of the C tier for now. We've got Kahoot. So this is one of the many 2-cost inkable 1 lore, 2 3s. Not 2 lore. Oh my gosh, that would be wonderful. So 2-cost, 2 3 1 vanillas. We got a lot of them in the set. Where do you usually like taking those?
Pretty late in the game. I mean, it's really going to depend on what's in the pack, but I'm probably going to see a lot of other stuff that's better than this in the pack.
It's a fair point.
So,
And there's a lot of them. So last set I was drafting them higher because the 2 drops were so bad. But this set there's a lot of the 2 3s. So I feel like you're going to see it later. So normally I value these at B just because I think there's so often so few good reliable board control. I usually like to control the board turn 1 through 3 and then get aggressive turns kind of 4 through 6. But I think in this set, I think you would be right to value them lower because there's just so many of them that you're just going to inherently see them in the last few picks of most of the packs. So let's drop them down to a C. I don't think I can put them below Kakamura. I'm sorry. But I'll put him down for you.
okay.
All right. King Hubert, Philip's father, 3-cost, inkable, 3/4, 1 lore. These have always been kind of hard C's for me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, just a reliable body, but nothing to get too excited about. But I
It's
do
the
feel
only
like people
king in
undervalue.
commons and uncommons, but that
Hey,
doesn't make that much of a difference.
if are you really going for the king's core strategy there?
We'll get there.
Oh my goodness, I'm having real problems with finding these characters. There he is. All right, hard C. I feel like I could put him below Cuckmore and even Mr. Smee. I feel like he'd be kind of middle of the pack. Hercules Demigod, or Unwavering Demigod, sorry. 2/4, 2 lore with Challenger +2. 4-cost inkable. What do you think?
I love this card.
Okay.
I put it in an A.
Really? We're talking
Yep.
about the same Hercules, right?
Yep.
Okay.
2/4,
Sell
2
me
lore.
on A.
Takes out 4 willpower items. Has some kickback. It's a great card.
Okay.
What more can you want? It's probably taking out 2 of your opponent's cards
My problem is
while
that
gaining you some lore.
it's competing with itself, which is to say Challenger +2 and 2 lore for me is very contradictory. Am I supposed to be challenging or am I supposed to be questing? Now that I'm not
I've
saying
heard you say that before.
I
But like,
so
go
for
ahead.
example, I like Abu in Ruby that's a 4/4 rush 2 lore because I'm like, okay, you can take something out and then quest afterwards. So I'm not saying you'll never do that. I'm just saying like I would rather it was either a like I don't know 4-cost 2/6 Challenger to 1 lore or a 4-cost 3/4 2 lore or even 4/2 lore because I'm greedy. But I don't know. The Challenger +2, Challenger always kind of gets me because I like with my characters to be threatening on the attack back, right? So only having 2 strength when they're challenging me back. So that means that I challenge into their 2 or 3 strength character, and they can challenge me back with their 2/3 Kahoot here, and survive to tell the tale. I don't love that.
No, you're right. There are some situations where this isn't going to be good, but you play around those situations and you look at the upside, which is that it has what you need in both situations. It has 2 lore when there's nothing to contest it on the board, and it has +2 challenger when there is something to contest it on the board. It's a threat when it's ready in either mode.
I'll let you sell me on B.
Okay, thank you. What did you have it at?
I had it a C-.
Of course you did.
I was probably being unfair.
Let me just mention quickly to your audience that probably you are right on all of these. So
No. Don't give me that, sir. Let's be clear. I have always said this. This is just one man's opinion. You have one person's opinion. Everyone at home has their opinion. For me, the best strategy is take ideas from everyone along the way. And I get a good idea here. Okay, I feel like that's kind of aligned with my strategy. And I get a good idea here, good idea there. And over time, you amalgamate a strong strategy. If you just try to do exactly what I do, let me put it this way. I helped some people build some sealed decks at DLC for the first chapter sealed. And they did better than they were doing, but they didn't do great with it because they didn't know what I was thinking in terms of the strategy for doing this. If I had more time with them, I would walk them through that. But if you just try and replicate exactly what I do, you may not have the same success. This is why I try to give you why I'm there. But ultimately, you've got a very good point. That is a very valid point, that this does what you needed to do in the situation that you needed to do it in, right? So that is nothing to discount. So none of that.
I see what you're saying. It's not the rating that's important. It's the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. This is why I like having a conversation, so it's not just me giving my one opinion. All right, John Silver, Ship's Cook, 3 cost, inkable, 3/3, 1 lore. When you play this character, chosen character can't challenge during their next turn.
That's a really interesting ability, huh?
I really like John Silver. I don't love him, but I really like him. Yeah. I think I can't remember exactly. Let me double check where I'm at here. But I really like him. Yeah, I had him at a B-, only because...
Of course you did.
If he was a 3/4, I would be head over heels. The 3/3 gets me a little bit, but the fact that they can't challenge, right? Because if I've got a really strong 2 drop that I want to protect, great. If I play him later in the game and I've got a really great, a bomb character that they've got 1 character that can challenge it, great, right? And I mean like 1 character that can easily challenge it. Maybe they got a couple that can challenge into it, but it's like, but also that I got 1 big character. You got 2 characters that can take it out. I make sure one of them can't challenge next turn. Oh, and then we're thinking about the same legendary. It's like, what if, right? But
you're gonna have some of these because they're common.
But
and
also,
if that other one hits.
Yeah, he's an alien. He's a pirate, and he's a captain. So he's an alien for the location that cares about aliens. He's a pirate and a captain. So lots to love in terms of the subtypes. That ability, I think, is well worth losing a bit of willpower. So you had him at a B solid, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I can absolutely go with that. Can we put him above Hercules?
That's
hard for you.
We could put him above Hercules.
All right, I gotcha. All right.
Can you remind me what was a B for you that was slightly better than this B- John Silver?
What's a B for me that's slightly better than this B- John Silver?
Did we have any that have come up so far? Like in the first 10?
None that have come up yet. No, this is my highest so far.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got some coming that I've got higher, but this is my highest so far.
Okay.
But I'm okay with Smee being above him. Mr. Arrow, Legacy's first mate, 2 cost, inkable, 1/2, 2 lore, resist +1. That's spicy.
What a card. What a card.
Okay.
So I've got this at S.
Oh,
I don't know if you have that on your chart.
I don't have an S tier. You're just exploding out of the top.
It's off the charts.
Off the
It's off the charts, man. You
Okay.
want all of these. This is your pack one, pick one.
It's so annoying.
Just one man's opinion. But
Yeah.
like, wow, Mr. Arrow is going down on the board on turn 2 and he's sticking around. You're gonna
Yeah.
get 4-6 lore out of this if you play him right.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of answers for this. Neither direct
and he's
nor in
inkable.
character.
So if you draw him, I mean, even if you draw him late, you probably still want to play him because he's a 2 lore character. But like worst case scenario, you need the fact that he's inkable. For me, even the best card in the game, I'm happier that it's inkable because I've got the choice. Yeah, he's going to be really annoying, especially since there's unless. I don't think there's any 2-cost captains. I'm thinking of, you can't go like Moana 1-drop into a 2-cost captain into challenge into Mr. Arrow. So what I'm trying to say is I don't think there's any 2-drops that can deal with Mr. Arrow 1-for-1. So as a result, if you drop him on turn 2, you're getting at least a couple of turns out of him, if not more, if you can, play your cards right. Again, there's only really 1 and 2 damage effects in this game other than characters. So he's shrugging those off. I like Mr. Arrow. I didn't have him as high. I definitely didn't have him S tier or even A tier, but I had him at a high B. I think I had him at mid B, but like wavering between those. So I can definitely put him at the top of where I'm so far, and I might be convinced at a low A. For now, I'm willing to graciously offer a low A for Mr. Arrow because he's going to be so annoying. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Time will tell.
Yeah.
You're going to love Mr. Arrow. You're going to have so
I'm planning on
many
drafting a lot of him.
I'll be handing them out.
Yeah. So we've got Jim Hawkins, Rigging Specialist, 5-cost uninkable, 5/5 2 lore, shift 3, probably not going to be relevant. When you play this character, you may deal 1 damage to chosen character or location.
Yeah, I don't think that that shift is going to be that relevant because the only other Jim at common and uncommon is the one that we previously talked about.
Yeah.
Which we split on fairly widely, I think. I don't know. All of them we've split on fairly widely.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to shift on him. Probably not. Yeah.
So this is a pretty good body at 2 lore that comes into play with dealing 1 damage, but the 5 uninkable is really painful.
It's tough.
It's going to sit in your hand for a long time, and that is why I put it at B. I don't think that's right. Shouldn't have done that.
You know, it's funny. I have him at B-. Reason being is because oddly enough, and this might sound weird, but oddly enough, I would always like more damage. I'm greedy. I'm a greedy boy. But I like 1 damage later in the game because there's a good chance that I'm not going to be tempted to use it early on something weak. I'm going to be able to use it late when they've got me with their 4/4 rush on my 3/3. And it's left with 1 willpower left, and they're holding it back to challenge my bigger characters. And I'm like, sorry about that. There's so many times where there's 1 or 2 willpower left on big characters that I really love that. And 5 for 5/5 2 lore is on rate if it was inkable. Like if it was inkable, 5 for 5/5 2 lore would be the vanilla stat line. So I'm already happy with the body to cost ratio, and I'll give up the uninkable to get that 1 damage. Obviously, location probably not relevant, but character definitely relevant. So I had it at a B-. Are you feeling like you've got this more at like a C+ type thing now that you're rethinking it?
Yeah, with the new scale of what I've learned so far in the first 10 cards that we've discussed, I would probably put this at a C because I think that it's too costly. And I think that your argument that, it's expensive, so it's going to keep me from playing badly by forcing me to play this later is a very strange argument. You could just, play good all the time.
No, you can't.
Can't you?
I can't get good, Stephen. I can't. I am a scrub.
So you must play the cards that force you to wait.
Well, no, but like if I'm getting good value, I will burn an effect early. If it's like, okay, your 3/3 has 1 willpower left, I'll burn that early. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that I wouldn't be, if Kakamura didn't say pirate on it, I would be thrilled with that. And I would be thrilled to take out a 2-cost character if it had 1 willpower left. Great. Or it had 1 willpower to begin with. What I'm saying is I usually, if I can, try to hold on to those things for a better occasion. But I know I'm greedy and will probably just use it at the first sign that it is at all useful. So it's not that I wouldn't be happier if this was 4-cost or 3-cost. But I'm okay with it only being 1 damage. Because at that point, I assume that there's going to be something on the board that probably only has 1 willpower left. Not maybe turn 5, but if I'm dropping this turn 7 or something, also not too bad. So shall we put him under Mullins? Does that feel like a good place right now?
Yeah, under Mullins sounds great.
All right. Tuk Tuk's talking about vanilla. Tuk Tuk, 5 cost Inkable, 6/5, 1 lore vanilla.
Yeah. So let's compare it to Mullins.
Yeah. So he's got 1 more willpower, but if you've got a Smee, resist can be good, but yeah.
So I have this at B, same as Mullins for me.
I've got him at C. I also had Mullins lower, I think. But ultimately, if I'm comparing the two with where Mullins is now, I think I would probably put it below Mullins because Mullins is a pirate, and I'm going to be going after Smees. So I feel like I'm going to have at least 1 or 2 Smees and can capitalize on it, such that I'm willing to risk the 1 willpower. I don't know, maybe not.
The Smee makes a difference, definitely. You would know that, whether or not you got one of the uncommon Smees. But the pirate also makes a difference that I hadn't considered. So, yeah.
Like I said, when things are relatively equivalent, that pirate for me notches it just a little bit. Because there's just so many pirate payoffs. Not necessarily huge pirate payoffs, but even your Kakamora is a pirate payoff, right? All right. Billy Bones, Space Sailor. 3 cost Inkable, 2/2, 2 lore. When this character is banished, you may banish chosen item or location. Woo!
So I have this at a C. I think that ability is fine. And I just don't think that it's going to... I don't think you're going to be able to play into that value that much.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily going to be able to control when he's banished.
Yeah.
Unless you're running him into somebody.
But also,
but you're not always going to be able to trade fairly.
The thing is you're right. There's very few item or location removal to speak of, if any. I don't know if there's any others because I don't really pay attention to item or location removal in draft. But also, there's likely to be no targets. Or if they've got a location, you can just challenge it anyway. Other than last set, where we were very depleted on 2 drops, the 2 cost 2/2 2 lore vanilla, I usually have it like a C or a C minus. So this for me...
Are they usually at 3 cost Inkable? Is that normal?
Yeah. So I've got this at D in that I'm happy to have it in the deck because most of the time I'm going to ink it. But sometimes I just want a 2/2 2 lore, so I'll pay a little bit extra if I'm top deck mode and it's just anything with 2 lore will do. But most of the time I would expect to ink this, which means it's a D for me.
Reasonable.
Pluto Guard Dog. 4 cost Inkable, 1/5 naturally, 1 lore bodyguard, but while this character has no damage, he gets +4 strength. What do you think?
This has got to be one of your A's.
I don't know if it's an A, because that's asking a lot. A is like first pickable, but...
this is giving a lot.
This is B+ for me. This is B+.
This is a 5/5.
Yeah, I know. And bodyguard is so hard to come by. So this is where... That's kind of in a vacuum rating. To your point, there's only 2 common and uncommon bodyguards, if I'm correct.
I think that's right.
So knowing how sparse it is... Yeah. Knowing how sparse it is, I should probably rate this higher. So yeah, I'm okay with this at like an A-. I would have this... I had this above Mr. Arrow. But for you, I'm willing to put it on either side. So what do you think, Stephen? Is it above or below Mr. Arrow?
I think this is below Mr. Arrow.
Okay. I would have it above, but that's okay. I'm very fine with that. So the thing is, like, yeah, they're going to find a way to run their 1 drop into this first and then run their bigger character in, but that's still requiring 2 challenges. If they just run their big body into this, then you're really happy because it's probably cost more than 5 ink, and you distracted them for their turn, and you remove their big body from the board. But even if they do the sneaky play of, I run my 1 drop in and then I run my big body in, you've still distracted 2 of their challengers away from your threats on the board and taken out their 1 drop in the process, which is nothing. So
you may also not put this into play exerted. Depending on your board state, you might put this into play ready, and then on your next turn, take out something with 5 willpower.
Yep.
And then it's bodyguarded for the next turn.
Yep. And that's going to be banished, but you've still got the bodyguard out of it. That's a great point. That is a very valid point. And I think there's probably going to be a lot of people that don't see that line. So thank you for calling attention to that, because that absolutely is a line that you should consider. Also, There's a few damage removal in this set that I would consider playing. Certainly one legendary that I would definitely play. But it's possible you might be able to leverage that as well. So, yeah, I really like Pluto. Okay. Mickey Mouse, Night Watch. 2/3, 2 lore for 3 inkable. Your character's named Pluto, get resist +1. Could you imagine Mickey Mouse into Pluto?
It'd be incredible. That would be a heck of a combo. And if you're able to pull that off, then you're in really good shape.
I would be very happy.
I don't think you can count on it.
No, you're not going to count on it, but I'm definitely going to try and pull it off. I'll send you a picture. I was saying this to Nive yesterday. I'm like, if I pull this off, I'll send you a picture, Steven, and be like, I was thinking of you as I pulled off sick Mickey into Pluto.
That sounds good.
All right, let's talk about it in a vacuum.
If any of you out there do that, send it to us on Twitter.
Yeah, tag us on that. Okay, let's talk about it without Pluto now. In a vacuum, all it is a 3-drop, 2/3, 2 lore.
Yep, which is a little bit better than Billy Bones, but not enough to bump it off of a C. Yeah. I'd probably put it at a C.
So for me, it's a D again in that, a C. So for me, a C, I still want to draft. It's still very playable, right? It's not necessarily great, but it's playable. Like, compare that to King Hubert here. It's not taking anything out. Yes, it's questing for 2 lore, 1 more than Hubert, but it's dying in the process. So I'm thinking of the vanilla stat line. 3-drop, 3/3, 2 lore is kind of the vanilla stat line. So I would need to have 1 or 2 Plutos for me to value this above a D. As soon as I've got 1 or 2 Plutos, then I'm probably valuing it at a C. But even then, not super high, because the chance of having both at the right time just doesn't tend to work out as often. So I feel pretty strongly that this is a high D and definitely above Billy Bones. But high D, low C, I'm fine with it in that range. I'm going to put it there just because we've got so many C's already. But definitely it's immensely playable sometimes.
Seems reasonable.
Cobra Bubbles, 5 cost, inkable, 3/4, 2 lore, bodyguard. So this is a rare bodyguard, but still a bodyguard, sort of, 3/4. And he's got an ability, 2 ink, no exertion required, so you can do it any number of times. Draw a card and then discard a card.
Well, I like that ability.
Yeah.
But he's a bit expensive, so I put him at a B.
I have him at a C+. So the reason I do is just because the 3/4 body on a bodyguard with an ability that you kind of want around for a while feels, again, a little disjointed for me. Like, I love bodyguards so much, but they die real quick because they invite challenging. So this ability probably isn't going to see play all that often unless you hold him back, in which case the bodyguard isn't doing much. So I like that you've got somewhere to sink your ink in later turns if he does survive. I always like having that because there's plenty of times where you get late game and you've got like 6 ink on board and you draw a 2-drop. It's like, well, what am I doing with the rest of my ink? So I like having that flexibility, but I don't know that it's flexibility in service of its main purpose, which should be bodyguard. So for me, I've got it a C+, but I would be okay with a B-, just because, again, bodyguards are so few and far between. So we're in that range.
I don't have much of a counter argument. The cost is a little bit high for me.
Yeah. Gone to Captain Crankyhead. This is a well-costed character. 5 cost inkable for a 4/3 body. Oh, that doesn't sound great. Oh, yeah. It has 4 lore. What
a little ASMR for you there.
4 lore on a 5 cost body? That is not well statted for 5 cost, but is still going to eat something when it eventually gets challenged.
Yeah, and it's probably going to survive to quest. Yeah. Because dealing 3 direct damage is pretty difficult.
In this set especially, unless you got a Smee with 3 other pirates, or the 7 cost uninkable Kakamora and discard a pirate, you're not dealing 3.
So I think you put this at B+.
I have it at A-, actually.
A-? I'm so close. I have it at A.
You have it. Oh, you were guessing that I have it at B+. Okay.
Yeah.
So the thing is I definitely have it above these two. Now I'm going to let you decide. Where does it land in our A's here?
Well, what do we got today? Mr. Arrow?
Mr. Arrow and Pluto.
Hmm. Okay. I think I would put this under Mr. Arrow and above Pluto. What do you
Okay.
think?
I mean, I have them above both, but I'm fine. You
Hmm.
have Mr. Arrow at S tier, so it's going to be hard for me to move you off Mr. Arrow.
It
But
really is.
but yeah, just the fact that I'm probably only questing once with this. Unless I've played a really good control game, I'm probably only questing once. But even just getting 4 lore and trading for a 4/4 or a 3/3 feels really good for a 5-cost inkable.
Mhm.
All right. What is uninkable is Wreck-It Ralph Ham Hands, which is a 6-cost uninkable 4/4 3 lore. When this character quests, you may banish chosen item or location, either yours or your opponent's, should they happen to have one of those two things, to gain 2 lore.
This is our first of 2 legendaries that we're going to be looking at in this ink.
Yeah.
And I know that you are not one that rare drafts, that is going to open up a legendary Wreck-It Ralph and go, oh my god, I'm taking this.
If he's worth a lot, sure.
A legendary Wreck-It Ralph.
My threshold is usually around like $10 early in the set and $5 later in the set. Depends on what I'm drafting for. If I'm at a DLC, it's not. But yeah, so let's acknowledge this because I do it in every one. You're going to draft the legendaries. I get that. Unless they're utter garbage, you're going to draft the legendaries, and that's fine. I'd like to rate them in like ignoring the price
Sure.
outside of the game. But yes, I will acknowledge you're probably just going to draft
I
the
appreciate you
legendaries.
acknowledging that because I don't think that this is utter garbage. So there is that fact to consider.
Yes, definitely. I think it will, in fact, see play, so I think you should probably just take it for the money.
Yeah.
But let's talk about outside of that. Let's talk about it in draft. What are we looking at?
So I have this at an A.
Okay.
Because I think that there are some decent items, and there are some very strong items, like that longboat. So I think that there are going to be occasional items in play, and you can certainly there are some items that are, okay, and you might disagree, but there are some items that I think would make your deck. And so
Definitely.
this
I
is
would
probably
agree.
going
I would
to
draft
quest for
longboat.
5
Maybe.
and have a 4/4 body on it.
So this is where, and you've mentioned you've heard me before, so thank you, Stephen, for admitting that you're one of the few people that actually watch these videos. I don't like to think about the ideal situation. I like to think what's the average situation. And I can tell you that the average player probably has somewhere around 1 item and location respectively. So 2 targets in their deck. You might have a little bit more. Maybe you've got 3. So one of us has to have one of those out for this to have that effect. And, you know, if they've got any item or location, I'm happy to banish it. But there's probably very few that I'm like, other than the 2 lore, I care about banishing it. So between those 2 things, the 6-cost uninkable is hard for me to swallow. I would probably still play it because at the end of the day, a 4/4/3 lore body for 6 cost, even if I got to work a little hard for it, is probably still worth playing. I'm just very doubtful that the second ability will come up all that often. So I've got to take it at the 4/4/3 lore body, which for 6 cost for me has it at like a C-ish range. I'm not thrilled about it. I think you're going to take it anyway, and I think you should play it. So it doesn't really matter, but if it, for some reason, doesn't end up getting played in Constructed and tanks in value, I would probably pass it. I will agree to have it at the top end or the bottom here. Let's put it behind Mr. Bubbles.
Sounds good.
You got me from down here to up here. You got me up 1 row. So we've met in the middle.
You talked me down as well. I think you're right about the, even if I have items in my deck, doesn't mean that they're going to be in play.
Yeah, that I'm going to draw them and that they're going to be. Yeah. But if you got it, absolutely go nuts. Smash those things. All right. Calhoun, Marine Sergeant. 2-cost uninkable, 3/2/1 lore, resist +1. You've already got me. But on top of that, whenever this character challenges, during your turn, I should specify, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, gain 2 lore. So it's got to be you challenging. Let's be very clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
I love this.
Pretty good card.
I love this. I really, really like this.
I have this at an A.
Yeah. This is the highest one I've had so far. I have this one at an A minus, but only because I'm probably only going to get one shot out of it. But I'm going to try real hard to get two shots out of it with that resist +1. I'm coming for you, Mr. Arrow.
Yeah, I would put this above Mr. Arrow if that's
Oh, I
what
like
you
that.
are
Yeah,
going to put next.
I'm thrilled to have that above Mr. Arrow. But let me be clear,
I mean,
like Mr. Arrow.
I like that Mr. Arrow's inkable.
Yeah. At two
And
cost,
we're
I'm
going to
not too
see a
worried
lot
about
more
the
Mr.
uninkable.
Arrow.
The only problem I have with the 2 cost uninkable is that it deters me from drafting more uninkables. Right? I don't want to draft too many, but in a vacuum, a 2 cost uninkable is almost irrelevant for me because a 6 cost uninkable, that means I've got no choice but to have it sit in my hand for turns and turns and turns. Whereas a 2-drop, okay, maybe it's not my preferred 2-drop, which this will always be, but if I've got a 2-drop uninkable and there's a slightly better one, not the end of the world, I can drop it down, it's fine. Right? So I'm not too worried about that other than that it's going to make it so that I might not end up drafting another uninkable. Okay, Captain Amelia, 4 cost inkable, 1/4, 2 lore, is a captain and an alien for what it's worth. This character can't be challenged by pirate characters. Pirate strategy, get out of here. While being challenged, your other characters gain resist +1, and notably, she doesn't have to be exerted for that. She doesn't have to do anything other than be in play.
Yeah, pretty strong. Pretty strong.
Yeah. I'm not like...
Does this make you think maybe Tuk Tuk is better than Mullins?
I mean, I don't know.
No, it doesn't.
No.
They're
They're so interchangeable. I'm not really worried about that.
Yeah. I put Captain Amelia at an A.
Okay, I had her at a B, B+, but I feel like that resist +1 could be huge, right?
Yep.
Especially if your opponent's playing pirates. Then you're just laughing.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, I'm okay with like high B, low A, somewhere in that range. I try not to have too many A's because that means I'm first picking everything. So let's put her at a high B. And because I think there might still be one other that... Is there one other that I have above
I want to
this?
first pick everything.
I know.
What I like about Captain Amelia is
I
that I
think
don't think that your opponent's going to be thinking of their pirates as being a negative. So I think you can manipulate the board before Captain Amelia comes out, so that there are only pirates out.
Yeah, that's smart. And also, this might not be the most ethical thing to do, but if you don't announce her ability until they challenge in with a pirate, it's like, oh, no.
Yeah. No. Try again.
I'm a scummy player.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, I'm okay with putting her up because I think that's the last one that I've got that high anyway. So I think 5 is fair to be at. All right, Jafar, Power Hungry Vizier, 5 cost uninkable, 3/4, 1 lore. During your turn, when a card is put into your inkwell, deal 1 damage to chosen character.
Ugh.
So you're probably activating this one more time than Jim Hawkins, but it doesn't happen when it comes into play, so you lose the surprise factor a little bit, and it's a 3/4, 1 lore instead of a 5/5, 2 lore.
That's a great comparison to Jim Hawkins.
Yeah.
And this is a super rare. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's crafted so that you can build a deck around it and, it improves that way, but it's not really very good in this environment.
Yeah. I feel like if I'm only activating him once or maybe twice after I play him, because that's even assuming I get him down on 5. For me, he's in this territory. I would probably
let's put him at F.
Yep. All right, let's get to the one we've all been waiting for. Which I have alternatively at 2 ends of the spectrum. John Silver, Stern Captain, 8 cost inkable, 6/6, 2 lore, shift 5, alien, pirate, and captain, villain for what it's worth, resist +2, and at the start of your turn, deal 1 damage to each opposing ready character. Yeah.
So if you can get this in play,
yes,
you probably won the game.
If you get this in play, he's here. If you don't have any John Silvers, he's here. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's that simple. Like, you're not going to get him into play if you don't have John Silver. But he's inkable, so I guess he's here. Sorry. Here, because he's inkable. Because you can get to 8. If you draw cards, you can get to 8. But most of the time, he's going to be ink. But if you've got John Silvers...
If you are getting this in a pack, it's probably you're probably not getting past this.
I mean, again,
If
let's
you
be
are,
clear,
it's,
you're
you know,
rare drafting this regardless.
yeah.
But I'm talking
so
about
it's,
putting it in your
top 2
deck,
picks.
right? So
So
I'm going to put it in my deck regardless because it's inkable, but...
I'm just thinking, like, if you do draft this, you still have a chance to pick up some Jim Hawkins.
John Silver's, you mean? Yeah. Because
Sorry,
the other
that's
one's
what I meant.
the other
John
one's
Silver's.
common, right? Yeah, it's common.
I think so.
And there is the Ruby one as well. I think there's just the 2, right? But regardless,
There is a Ruby one, yeah.
The 3-drop one I'm aggressively drafting anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm fine to like hedge in between. I just wanted to be very clear on video, but for those who just see this in an image afterwards, for me this is a D most of the time, but if I've got John Silver's and I can shift it out, then it becomes the best card maybe in the set. Possibly.
There are only like 2 answers to this.
There's and one of them you shouldn't play. We just did in Ruby and it's an F.
Okay, there you go.
You talking about Hades, I'm assuming, as one of them?
No, I was talking about Megabot Emerald.
Oh, so Hades
got there yet?
in Ruby, where you can banish a character of yours to banish its Glimmer
right.
versus Glimmer, right? So let's hedge our bets and put it kind of in this range, or we could just put it at the top and just say if. Huge asterisks.
Let's put it in the middle.
Okay.
Let's put it under the A's.
Okay, sure. But just to be clear, if you're watching this, tread carefully. But yeah, I'm going to put it in my deck regardless because it's inkable. Hot Potato, 3-cost action. Choose one, deal 2 damage to chosen character, or banish chosen item. Is this how desperate we are for removal in this set?
Yes.
Truly. You have to take this, but my gosh. I am paying
it's
a price.
a heck of a turn 3. It's not that great of a turn 3.
No.
But maybe
removable.
you're playing this a little bit later and playing a 1 or 2 cost character alongside it.
Yeah. I would be hoping to play this like turn 6 or 7 again to deal the last 2 damage to something bigger rather than just taking out a 2-drop or something. So I have it at C+. I don't know about you, but just it's something I'm going to feel compelled to take.
You should put it at C.
Yeah, I'm going to feel compelled to take it, but it's not great. Okay, I'm still here. 3-cost inkable action song. Chosen character gains resist +2 until the start of your next turn, and draw a card.
Now, I like this one.
Yeah,
I'm interested. That until the start of your next turn that I think turns this into a 2-for-1.
Yeah, right?
Well, I guess it's a 2-for-2.
So, yeah, I
mean... it is a 2-for-1.
2-for-1, you draw a card, so it replaces itself, and you're probably being able to challenge in without taking little to no damage back.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be wanting to challenge into it on the swing back because it's still got resist. So, yeah, I like it. I see this as almost quasi-removal, and it replaces itself, and it's a song. I really like that it's a song.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going for it. I don't have it much higher than Hot Potato, but I do have it higher than that. So like kind of B-, C+ territory.
Mm-hmm. I'd put it at B.
Okay. I'm happy with that. Can we put it above Wreck-It Ralph?
Yeah. Yeah, let's put
I really want Ralph to be at the bottom of B.
That's really funny if we're opening this and Wreck-It Ralph in a pack.
It's like, we're taking
I'm still here. Wreck-It Ralph.
You know what? If it turns out that Wreck-It Ralph isn't playable and he only becomes like $1 legendary late in the set, I would make that. I would do that. All right. Twin Fire, 2-cost uninkable action. Deal 2 damage to chosen character. Then you may, really important here, may choose and discard a card to deal 2 damage to another chosen character.
Now, I think this card is really good.
Yeah.
Very good. I think it's going to have an impact on the set.
Yeah.
But I don't know how good it's going to be in Limited. I still think really good.
Yep.
And I think that's...
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I think that one of the things that this does is it lets you use your uninkable cards for something else. Which, as a person that plays with Fishbone Quill a lot, I love that. I have a card stuck in my hand that I don't want to wait until turn 5 to play. Yeah. I'm going to pitch it and do 2 damage right now.
Or my Mr. Big is trumped on the board. I can pitch it and deal 2 damage. Yeah. I'm
so I put this at S tier, which is A tier for you, or A- tier for you.
High. I have it at B- just because it's uninkable. But so anytime, Because keep in mind, you think, oh, it's a 2 for 2 most of the time because you're going to set it up. You're not going to just deal 2 damage to a 3 willpower character. So it's probably going to be a 2 for 2, except you didn't have to pay ink for that second 2, whereas your opponent did, and you only paid 2 for this action in the first place, which is going to be super efficient. So I really like it. I'm very happy to bump it above where I had it, which is at a B-, but I don't think I can bump it up to this territory quite yet. I could bump it up above
a character.
I could maybe bump it above Amelia.
Yeah.
I don't think I could bump it above Pluto.
I mean, this isn't a card that is going to top deck and win you the game. It might top deck and save you a couple of turns.
It definitely might, save you, right? Especially if you've been holding on to something that you haven't been able to use. That Kakamora leader because you got greedy and drafted it.
Yeah.
All right. Ambush, 3-cost uninkable action. Exert one of your characters to deal damage equal to their strength to chosen character. I was thinking about this one, and in Magic, you can do this effect without exerting the character. You just choose a character, because it's already, circumstantial, right? I've got to have a character in play that's big enough that I'm dealing a decent amount of damage with this. I think you'll probably be able to meet that criteria, but why did I have to exert it as well? That disappoints me. I still think because we're so sparse, much like Hot Potato, we're so sparse for damage, for removal, that I think you still play this and in fact draft it relatively high. But I wish it didn't have to exert the character. What do you have it at? What do you think?
I had it at A.
Okay.
Which, I've got I think too many things at A.
You do have a lot at A. You're first picking everything.
I'm first picking this too. I like this a lot because it's saving your best character while using him.
Yep.
Imagine
so
if
it doesn't have to take the damage back. Yeah.
Give one of your characters resist plus 100.
Yeah.
But this doesn't even have to challenge.
Yep.
It
can be an unexerted character.
You can challenge an evasive character this way. You can take out an evasive character.
You can use a pirate to get rid of Captain Amelia with this.
Yeah.
So definitely I think I don't like circumstantial stuff, but I think you will meet the criteria for this often enough that I'm not really worried about it. And yes, I wish it didn't have the exert, but it's okay. The uninkable kills me a little bit because if I don't have a character on board, it's like, cool, I can't use this for a couple turns because maybe I top deck a character next turn and I can't use it yet because I can't exert it. So I'm a couple turns away from using this. And my hope is that the character that I top deck is able to remove one of their characters. Hopefully their only one. So there's definitely times where this is going to be a little dead, but maybe then you just toss it to Twinfire and then you're happy. I would
bringing
be
this
more
down
comfortable
to reality here.
Yeah.
You would put it at what? B, C?
So I had it at a C+, but I'd be happy with it in kind of the B to B- territory. So somewhere in this range. I would say definitely below Mr. Smee, and I would say probably below Baby John Silver would be kind of where I'd be happy with it at.
I think that's pretty reasonable. And I trust you on this. And one of the key things here is that you looked at the whole set, and I've only done the homework on
Steel. Fair enough.
So,
well, the thing is, you'd probably like it more.
Steel.
The thing is, you'd probably like it more because there's no other removal in the set. Steel has it all, so you'd probably like it more if you'd seen the rest of the set.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true.
All right. Unfortunate situations. More circumstantial removal. 4-cost inkable. At least it's inkable this time. Action. Each opponent chooses one of their characters and deals 4 damage to them.
So I don't think this is as good because you can't control what you're going to be taking out. If you think that you can take out all their small characters and then force them to deal 4 damage to their best character, I don't think you're actually going to find yourself in that situation very often. So
what they'll have is they'll have a 4/4 with 1 willpower left, and they'll be like, all right, this one, right? They're probably not going to have the 2/2 left on board by this time, but they're going to have stuff that they're like, it's fine, right? You effectively dealt 1 damage or 2 damage to my character. For me, I've got it relatively equivalent to Ambush just because I consider it likewise circumstantial, but it's inkable. So if the circumstances aren't right, I can ink Unfortunate Situation. I can't do that with Ambush. But that being said, I think you're right. I think the circumstances are going to line up more with Ambush than Unfortunate Situations, so I probably shouldn't be too down on the uninkables. What I'll say is, If I had these two in my pack and it was like pack 3 or 4, and I knew that my uninkable count was high, I'm absolutely taking Unfortunate Situation. But if my uninkable count isn't very high, or I'm drafting earlier, pack 1 or 2, then I'm taking Ambush higher. So I think keep that in mind. I'm fine to put it lower and perhaps a couple points lower than Ambush, but just keep that in mind. The inkable factor is relevant. All right.
Question for you.
Yes.
Are you considering rarity in a pack like that? You're opening a pack that has both Ambush and Unfortunate Situation in it, and that's possible. You might see another Unfortunate Situation, but you're probably not going to see another Ambush in another pack.
Not really. It's a relevant discussion to have, because I think there's some cases where you should, but I'd rather not deal with the what ifs. I'd rather deal with what's in front of me. I think that comes into play if I've got, something that is potentially substantially better, but only if I find it, like Jasmine. I opened the Jasmine Legendary. Maybe she's not worth anything, and so I don't need to rare draft her. I don't have a Jasmine Shift target yet. I'm factoring in the rarity then, because there's no way I'm ever seeing another Jasmine, so I'm taking a flyer on her in pack 1 or 2. But if I don't see another Ambush, I'm probably not crushed. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to say is, depending on the type of player you are, you may very highly value being able to say, I'm sorry, I have to put you in an unfortunate situation.
I do not factor that in at all, but I love that you brought that to everyone's attention. King Sensor Core, we should be able to brush through this one pretty easily. 3-cost inkable. Do I have to say what it does, Steven? It does nothing. It does nothing.
It does nothing?
Yeah.
But if you have a Prince or King character on the board, forget it. I'm not even going to bother.
I'm going to put it as a high F because it's inkable.
Oh, high F.
So I usually don't put things in F that are inkable, but if it's like, I just don't want you to even pretend to make this work, I will put it in F.
Yeah.
All right, this is one I'm torn on. Training Dummy, 2-cost inkable, exert it and pay 2 ink. Chosen character gains bodyguard until the start of your next turn. The reason I'm torn on it, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I want to kind of pretext with why I'm torn on it, so maybe you can sell me one way or the other.
Okay, I will.
There's so few bodyguards in the set that becomes valuable. But using a card to maybe give something that's of a decent enough size to be relevant to have bodyguard. And the fact that, one of the good things about bodyguard is as soon as they come into play, you can exert them. Whereas the character has to already be able to be exerted for the bodyguard to be relevant. I'm not sure I want to spend a card on that. Right?
Oh, that's really interesting. That's worse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
you can't, you're not likely to play a character and this in the same turn. Because this costs 4 to turn something into a bodyguard.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is already in play and we're on turn like 5 or 6 or 7.
Right.
And I play a 4-drop
character,
right? I can't do
and
that.
This, you can't, yeah. You can give it
unless it's a rush character, and then sure.
Right?
But, yeah. So that's one of my problems. But there is a real lack of bodyguards in this set, especially common and uncommon. So I feel like I still need to draft this, but I'm hesitant to draft it very highly.
I'm very comfortable at F with this one.
I actually have it at a C minus. I actually have it at a C minus. Just because
of
that.
Too expensive for bodyguard.
I agree. I see. This is one where you're selling me down, but it's just there's so few bodyguards that if I'm in pack 4 and I haven't drafted another bodyguard, I'm going to take this. Let's put it at D just because it's inkable, and I think there's times where you might want to use it.
Fair enough.
Sunglasses, 4-cost inkable item, exerted to draw a card and discard a card.
I have this at F also.
I would agree. This is one I don't want you to even be tempted to play.
I'm very excited if my opponent plays this.
I'm so excited if my opponent plays this. I was excited when my opponent played Plate Armor last set, and it's a heck of a thing to play around. But I'm just excited that they played an item that doesn't on its own impact the board. And I know how much trouble that card is. Sunglasses, I'm ecstatic. Treasure Mountain, 5-cost uninkable location. 2 move, 9 willpower, 2 lore. So 9 willpower, 2 lore. Not nothing. At the start of your turn, deal damage to chosen character or location equal to the number of characters here.
Super interesting card that I think will be the subject of super debate.
Knive is
So
going to try to make this work, 100%.
I think this is a trap.
It
I think
is.
this is a 100% trap, and I think you should avoid it.
Yeah.
So I think we should put it at F.
Hard F. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. Yes.
All right.
Because it's 7 ink to get the first character in there. And yes, you know what? You're probably going to get 2 lore off of this. Because there's a good chance they're not going to be able to swing 9 into it the turn that you play it. But for that cost, you paid 5 and it's uninkable. And chances are you're not getting 4 out of it. Yeah, you're holding them off. You're getting some tempo for a turn or 2. But if I'm getting a free card out of that because you just lost your big play here, especially if you paid 2 to move something to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, you play this on turn 5. And on turn 6, you move whatever else you've got surviving to Treasure Mountain. And then on turn 7, you get that effect.
And on turn 6, you probably can't quest at that point or they're going to be gone before you ready.
So this is just a huge stall for yourself. You might get the 2 lore a couple of times.
Yeah.
9 willpower is nothing to sneeze at, but this is going to slow you down a lot more than putting out a nice bodied character on turn 5.
Yep. If I'm feeling real spicy, I might try to make this and Moana work, but it's a trap. Do not do it. Galactic Council Chamber. Last one here. 3 cost inkable, 7 willpower, 1 move, 1 lore. When you have an alien or robot character here, this location can't be challenged.
There's a couple aliens in the set.
Specifically,
Not
a couple
a lot
that
of
I'd like to
robots.
play. No, there's 1 robot that I want to play. No, sorry.
Yeah,
1 common and uncommon. Let's be clear. I want to play.
that's right.
I'm talking about Ben. I want to play. Gosh.
Yeah, that's right.
Big Hero
Martin
6.
Short?
Why? Anyways.
What?
Big Hero 6. There's another robot.
Oh, okay. I thought that's where Ben was
Oh
coming
my
from,
gosh.
but I don't think so.
Anyways, I'm tired.
Baymax.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's 4 to 5 rare plus aliens and robots that I want to play, Baymax being one of them. But of common and uncommon, there's 5 aliens and 1 robot. So there's a decent amount. Certainly not the number of pirates, but there's a decent amount. I have this at D in a vacuum and B- if I've got a few aliens already. I'm not going to draft this hoping that I'm going to get the aliens and robots, but if I've got a few, such that I can even plant 1 here, that's tempting, especially if then I start going into... so you haven't seen it if you haven't looked at the other cards in the set, but there is a Ruby character, Vanellope, that is 3 cost, 2, 3, 1 lore. At the start of your turn, if she's in a location, she doesn't have to be exerted or anything, just exist at a location, draw a card, gain a lore. Which I would not draft otherwise. But if I've got the Council Chamber, and I've got some aliens, and I've got Vanellope, I'm starting to feel really good. And then maybe I draft Moana. I don't like locations in draft. Let me be very clear. But these kind of things make me tempted to make that work.
In your many drafts, how have you felt when your opponent played the location?
I've decimated them. Every single time. Every single time. I almost as much as sunglasses. I love it when my opponent plays a location.
Ooh. Okay.
7 Dwarves Mine. Even Library. And I like to draft Library because I felt confident my opponent... Gosh, I hate saying things like this, but I felt confident I could outplay my opponent. Right? So I felt confident because
you
for
should
me,
feel that way. Everyone should.
I'm going to make you dump ink into the library, and then I'm going to take out the library and then take out your characters. It's like, so the libraries and like Queen's Castle, back in the day, 9 months ago, those were locations that I would absolutely draft and play. But even then, when my opponent played them, I was happy to see it because I'm like, I don't have to spend a card. I've got to spend tempo, but I don't have to spend a card to remove a card that you just played. I have free removal via challenge. I like that. Yeah. But if they play an alien on it, all of a sudden I'm not feeling so good.
Yeah.
This is my favorite location in the set.
1 lore per turn, you can beat that.
Yeah. So this is my favorite location in the set, but I still don't think it's good enough. I might try and build this one. This one I might try and build around. I was joking about Treasure Mountain. This one I might try and build around, but no others. So I'm going to put this as a D, but
makes sense.
If you want to try and make it work, all the power to you. Stephen, we did it! Once again, my promise of a 30-minute video has turned into an hour 20.
Well,
Thank you so
You
much, my
can't
man.
rush art.
Right? And certainly, it's always great having a conversation with you, sir. It has been a pleasure. It has been an honor. Tell the people one more time where they can find you, what you're doing.
Well, I'm mostly on Twitter at @sgettle, SGETTLE, but you can also find my musings daily at Lorcana History, where I look back at what has come before.
And I think that channel's a channel. I keep saying channel. What is it on Twitter? Is it a page? Is it a...
I would call it a channel. It's
Sure.
an account. But
Your Twitter account, I think that's going to take off the history one because everyone loves kind of looking back and reminiscing. So check it out. Give them a follow. But just love you, Stephen. Thanks, you so much for being on the show.